Thank you very much for this and for reminding me that I'm old. Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. And also, Mr. Director General, dear students and colleagues who are here. It's very nice to know that this is the first time we are doing, I mean, even for us, physical meeting, actually. So we are going to talk, instead of only talking over Zoom and talking online. You know, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about United Arab Emirates. This is a special year for us. We are celebrating this year our 50th anniversary. So we are a 50-year-old country. I always say I'm older than my own country, actually. So it's quite interesting, and I'll be honored. It will be my pleasure, of course, to take you through the journey of United Arab Emirates, you know, during today's presentation. As I talk, I would like you to keep in mind 3 words that I think are really representative of United Arab Emirates. Vision, tolerance is the second, and ambition. So keep that in back of your mind, and as we go through it, and see if these really come. And these 3 words really summarize, I would say, United Arab Emirates for me. So if you like, we'll go through the presentation. Again, it might be very long, so if you think that it's taking too long, stop me, and we can have a chat and see how we can take it from there. So I'll be talking about before the union, you know, the past, if you will, which is not too long ago. Then we talk about the years that we really got to grow up, from 1970s to 2000. The new century and the areas that we think are very important for us and that we focused on up to today. We talk about tolerance, women empowerment, very important point, humanitarian aid and sustainability, and then maybe we have, you know, the vision that we have for the future. We can discuss that there. So UAE basically, you know, I'm sure you all know about United Arab Emirates. You've read about it and you hear about it. It's a federal system. A lot of people think actually UAE is a kingdom and we have a king. We do not. We have a president of United Arab Emirates. It's a federation of 7 states, 7 emirates that have come together on December 2nd, 1971. That's when UAE was formed. Before that, we were what used to be called trucial states, and under the protection of Britain, British Empire at that time. So let's go through this, and just to say that this is where we are going to start the journey. And this is a very interesting picture. As you can see, we have a lot of desert, and this is a beautiful area in Abu Dhabi where you have sand dunes of over 100 meters. Beautiful place to climb, or to try and climb. Now, this picture I wanted to show you because this is not that long ago. Probably in Europe, you would say this was maybe in 1700s or 18th century or something like that. This is really actually, you know, 50 years ago, or 50 to 60 years ago only. And this is how we used to live, and we were very close, especially when it comes to the coastal areas. Today, people, when they look at United Arab Emirates, they talk about Burj Khalifa, the tallest tower in the world, or the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, and the best airlines and all this. But this is how we was, and this is where I grew, actually. So I remember every single place of this. And the houses used to be very minimal. Actually, we didn't even have fresh drinking water. As you know, we don't have much of that. Even today, actually, we don't have, but we do desalination. Those days, we used to bring underground water in tin barrels on donkeys. They used to deliver, you know, once a week to our homes. And that was very precious for us, the water at that time. Very interesting. So people, you know, United Arab Emirates, of course, today is very prosper and doing quite well. But just 50 years ago, it was, you know, very harsh environment, and we were very poor, actually. So it's very interesting to see the change that has happened. Showing some pictures here, I just wanted to, to represent. And basically, as you can see, the diver, we used to dive for pearls. Very true. That was our biggest industry. And of course, that didn't last very long, because after the 1930s, the Japanese started having artificial pearls. And it killed our market. And we suffered a lot, actually, after that. And but we were fortunate that by late 50s and in 60s, we started getting, finding oil, discovering oil and exporting that. And that, of course, made a major change. But up to then, it was very difficult. And the picture on the right corner there is of Dubai in 1970s. As you can see, not many roads, totally different than what you see today of Dubai. So very, indicative. The formation of the country was in 1971, December 2nd. This is the founding fathers, if you will. And I would like to stop a little bit with the founder of our nation, late Sheikh Zayed, who really, I say, he had very limited education, of course. I mean, there were no schools when he was, young in, early 1918 and all. And but he learned from the desert. And in our part of the world, in the Arabian Peninsula, from time to time, you get this wisdom of the desert. And that is the place that you have all the prophets that came from. So this is the wisdom that people got. And we were fortunate to have Sheikh Zayed, who had that wisdom. And who really built this country that we have today, to be honest. I mean, it's amazing character, amazing person. I would put him like Nelson Mandela, like the others who really have big pictures, look into the future. And he's the one who got all these 7 states, if you will. Each one was independent, together. And he was wise enough to allow a federal system. And in our part of the world, I mean, I think a lot of people I see probably are from our part of the world. Leaders are very strong. You have these strong egos. Everybody wants to be the king of everything and control everything. He was very wise. He said, I will not do that. I will have each emirate or each state to be ruling its own, to be autonomous. Something similar to what Germany is, right? The federal system. But then we can come together as one country, so we can stay powerful, if you will, together. So that system works so well. And I always say the best example of Arab unity is United Arab Emirates. For more than 50 years now, we are united. Very, very rare unity to find in our part of the world. And that is because of the wisdom and the vision that Sheikh Zayed had. So maybe if you have later questions, we can definitely talk about that also. And of course, that is when we got our oil, the boom started. Now, again, this is important because, unfortunately, in our part of the world, you get some selfish, maybe leaders, let's put it that way, who try to take the resources, but not to give the benefits back to the country. What UAE did from day one, Sheikh Zayed, he said that for every dollar that I'm going to spend, I'm going to save another dollar for the future. And that is how United Arab Emirates has one of the biggest sovereign wealth funds in the world. ADIA, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. Now, it's not, I mean, you might say that, yeah, that is fine because we got oil, we got resource, right? But many countries in our part of the world had also oil, had the resources. But what happened to them? So that is very important. I think it's good to look into that. And that is, again, because of the vision that he had to care for the future generations. And that is how we started. Another area that he focused on was education. And I would say I'm a result of that education that started, many years ago in our country when we did. And when he did the education, he didn't just focus on the men, let's say, on the boys. He didn't just open schools for the boys. First thing he did, he opened schools for boys and girls at the same time. So we got a chance to go to school. I can tell you a lot of stories because, as I said, I lived there at that time. We used to have illiteracy was one of the highest probably in the region or maybe in the world also in UAE when we first formed. Right now, it's one of the best literate countries. And that is because there was a national drive towards education. And he realized all these main points. That's where I was talking about the vision. You know, not being selfish, looking after the people, but focusing also on the future from today. So he started the schools from day one. He invested in that. And this is a country that has invested in its future. And we come to the other points also, the tolerance, as we go on through the presentation. And, you know, because I love mountains, as you rightly said, Mr. Dunfried, this is a quote from him. He said, "We are like those who had climbed mountain and reached to the top. When we looked down, we wanted to go even higher, to realize our goals. Despite all the achievements that we've done, we still have an ambition for more." That is how, you know, he was looking for his people. And this is in Ras Al Khaimah. It's one of the states so actually we do have mountains in my country. Of course, quite a nice place. Good. So, coming to now, the years between 1971 to 2000, for us, it's the years of learning, of growing up. Because we were getting to know new things. Going to school, sending people, opening new companies, you know, doing the infrastructure projects, opening up to the world even more. And, you know, I would say the story of countries is like stories of families or you know, communities. You know, we have, or individuals even. So you make mistakes during the time also, as you are growing up. And we did maybe some mistakes and all, but you know, it's good now that we are talking about this because even this 50 years, we are actually taking stock of what we have achieved so far and what mistakes we have made, and we are trying to change that. So this is a country, my country is a country that will not say, I did not do any mistakes. It's we have, but I think everybody, you know, well, as we know, but it's good to say, let's find out and how we can, you know, change, how we can do better. So on many sectors. And I think during the discussion, we can talk about some of those if you like. This, you know, this is it. Now, from 2000, the new century was when really UAE took off, I would say, where we became more confident, even in our foreign policy, you know, opening up missions around the world, getting to know the world better, and participating and being a member of the global community. And that is very important because with our resources and all, we could have stayed ourselves, you know, building whatever we want and you know, maybe closed our country to the world if we wanted. But we realized that we have a duty and a responsibility to the world also. So the responsibility comes to sustainability, to usage of resources, of oil, but also to being a role model and a positive contributor to the world when it comes to tolerance, accepting the others. Well, you know, UAE now has over 9 million people as population. Over 80% of them are from all over the world, 85%. So the UAE citizens, we are minority in our own country. We have people from more than 200 nationalities, different nationalities and backgrounds living in United Arab Emirates. And it's a very stable, safe area. People say that, you know, some people say the best way for, you know, countries like maybe India and Pakistan who had wars together to become friends is in Dubai. And that is how it is because, you know, everybody is, and that is because it's important. It's accepting the others. It's providing the environment for others to grow, to give the opportunities. You know, we are not very much an ideological country, and that is very important. We are open to all ideas, to all backgrounds, and that has made us maybe successful in that way. So we have, of course, one of the biggest things that is going to happen this year, talking about us doing this meeting physically. In October this year, we'll have the Expo 2020 in Dubai. And over 190 countries actually are going to participate. And that is, so Germany has a very big pavilion. Germany actually has 2 pavilions, one for Germany, one for Baden-Württemberg. Yeah, so this is Germany. This is interesting. So actually, but it will be the first time that countries from all over the world are going to come together, and of course there'll be challenges of Corona. We know that, but so far, all the countries are finishing off their pavilions and getting ready for the world opening up. And Dubai is going to be the center for that. If you want. Talking about culture and accepting the others, the title of tolerance is very important. And we don't just say it, but we live it actually. I can show you examples of it. Here, these are examples of houses of worship, if you will. The main thing about cultural and tolerance is accepting the other and in their thoughts, in their ideas, and their beliefs. I cannot dictate one belief to the others. And this is really what UAE is doing. We have almost close to 50 churches in UAE. We are going to have the biggest Hindu temple in in the Middle East, actually, in Abu Dhabi. I'll show you the next slide will be very interesting also. But, and we even had 2019 as year of tolerance. Now, why do we do that? Symbolizing a year with a title, it's important because we make everybody work towards that. So tolerance really and accepting the other became an important title for all of us. We even have a ministry of tolerance. So that the government, the institutions of the government have this. And it goes into our laws. We have a law against discrimination, against race or background or belief and all. So we cannot do that. Even if I am, let's say, a Muslim, I can never, saying, oh, I'm in UAE, it's a Muslim country. I can never say anything wrong about somebody else's religion, because that person can take me to court. And this is having rule of law. So once you have a system, you have the institutions in place, things become easier, But you need to build those, and it takes time and effort to do that. And UAE has been doing that. Of course, we had historical papal visit. It was in 2018. Pope Francis visited UAE, and he had a sermon of over 150,000 people from all over the world came to Abu Dhabi, open air sermon that he delivered. And there was even the document of human fraternity actually signed between the Al-Azhar, if you know Al-Azhar is the main center of Islam, let's say in Egypt, the head of that with the Pope Francis in Abu Dhabi. Now, being part of the culture and the heritage, it's being responsible member in the world. And UAE is working with the UNESCO to refurbish, restore a very important historical mosque in Al-Mosul in Iraq. It's an 800-year-old mosque that was destroyed by ISIS. UAE has been giving the funding to restore it, and it's almost finished now. It's called Al Masjid Al-Nouri. It's famous historically for us. And that is part of the responsibility that UAE is taking in being part of the global community. And this is where the cultural, diplomacy comes in. You just don't do only for your country. You become part of the whole world, actually. You become a member, active member to the world. This is a project that is coming up. By next year, we'll have it ready. It's the Abrahamic Accord. It's going to be in Abu Dhabi, where you are going to have a mosque, a synagogue, and a church together in one courtyard. Again, it's a message of saying, you can have your beliefs, your backgrounds, but let's come together and share it and exchange this knowledge together and respect each other's background. And that has been always a theme that is continuing in UAE. Even when I was small, we used to learn, I speak Hindi, for instance, a little bit, or Farsi, because we used to grow up in a community where you had people from India, from Iran, from different parts of the world living there. And we keep on building that. So it's been always like that. We've been always open to others. And I'm sure you've seen this last year, just less than a year ago, United Arab Emirates and Israel normalized their relations. This has been a very controversial, maybe for some, I think, a move, but it fits very well with the vision of United Arab Emirates. You cannot be tolerant and accepting everyone and saying, no, I will not talk to this country for 70 years or something. Now, we feel, I mean, we can talk this, again, this becomes politics now, but we can talk about it later on if you like. But we feel that the best way to come to solutions is to sit at the table and talk. And let's come to a solution. Unfortunately, in our part of the world, we are a region, I call it, of missed opportunities. A lot of opportunities you miss by not taking the courageous step to say, let's sit together and let's find a solution. Maybe peace can bring a better solution than fighting that has never stopped, that is going on for over 70 years and has led to more suffering, I would say, for the Palestinians than anyone else. So maybe this is another channel. Let's find out. And that's why I said United Arab Emirates is very pragmatic. The way we have developed and created our country and built it, we could do that for the region. I mean, we have to look at it in that way. I cannot just say, just because you think different, I'm not going to talk to you. Let us discuss. Maybe we can find a solution together. So that's another point. Going to women empowerment, again, as I said, this has been always a very important part of UAE. It's one of our major areas that we have focused on from day one. That has given us an advantage, I would say, in a region where maybe women were a little bit more suppressed. Sheikh Zayed, the founder, he said that the woman is half of the society. Any country which pursues development should not leave her in poverty or illiteracy. This is where the school starts. And this is, again, the wisdom that I'm talking about. I am on the woman's side. I always say this in order to uphold her right to work and participate in building the process of her country. So, Sheikh Zayed, the founder, always was convinced about the importance of the participation of women. But this is something that is not that strange in our part of the world. Unfortunately, people think it's not like that. Even during the early days of Islam, let's say, Prophet Muhammad himself, his wife, his first wife, was actually a businesswoman. So it was always like that. But with time, things changed and the stereotypes built up. But what Sheikh Zayed did is really what he thought is the best. You cannot have a society without paralyzing half of it. So it's in our constitution. We already have in our constitution that there is equal right between the genders. This is not clear. Yeah. Again, when we come to this, we have many laws that we bring in. It's very important to have regulation that helps. We have a regulation that says there is equal pay for equal work. I mean, that is maybe very normal in the West, but in our part of the world, this is something really unique, and we have put it into the system. So if I'm an ambassador for the job that I'm doing, even if it is in a company, for the same job, I should get the same salary like a male. Very interesting. This is just examples of women in UAE, my country. On the left, you can see our minister, the young lady. She's a Minister of State for Advanced Technology, and she's the head of our space agency. Actually, she was the one who was in charge of sending the probe from UAE, the Hope probe, that went to Mars. And UAE has been one of only 5 countries in the world that has sent a satellite, let's say a probe to Mars. And it's now orbiting Mars and it's getting information, especially scientific information about climate there. And she's been the one who's been spearheading this. Very interesting. We have many examples, So even when it comes to sports, not just mountain, but this one is tough. I don't think I can do this, but it is there. So quota for women, again, very important in boards. And I think this has been a discussion that goes on even in Europe and in America. I think people are talking about representation of women in boards in private sectors and all. We have made it sure that at least one woman should be in all the boards of private companies, but in public companies even more. The other thing is, of course, UN women. Again, this comes to our public diplomacy or cultural diplomacy. UAE has been a very active member working with UN women, and we have even a chapter of it, an office of UN women in Abu Dhabi. We've donated, millions, and we are making sure that there are programs that are going on. There is one with World Bank, so women entrepreneurs initiative that is going on. Peacekeeping, these are, UAE women who are getting training, making sure that they can be part of that also. So quite interesting. We are doing a lot of things, if you will. I mean, I can go on and on, but, it will never finish. So Federal National Council, our parliament, 50% of them are women. Now, this didn't come naturally, of course, but this is where the government intervenes positively, I would say. Because if you want to leave women to become, let's talk about even Germany or anywhere else. I don't want to put example of countries. Somebody said it will take 100 years for women to become 50% of a parliament in that country, if we leave it as it is right now, situation. So what do? You need to intervene sometimes, but intervene on a positive side. I am more of a market-oriented person, I don't like quotas and all, but sometimes it's important to put these quotas when governments do that, just to at least encourage women to participate. So even in our ministry, we have almost 50% diplomats are women, which is very interesting. We have, actually we just, yesterday we had new women ambassador appointed, one to France, one to Poland from UAE. So maybe in Romania we'll have also a woman ambassador from UAE soon or so. So, and almost 30% of our ministers, our cabinet, is made of women also. We have a minister for youth. Again, youth is a very important, I didn't maybe talk about it much, but she's also, it's a lady. She was one of the youngest ministers in the world that she's talking. She's trying to get the youth voice heard in our government as much as possible. We even have 24 judges in our courts, women, very interesting in our part of the world. So, we talked about space agency. Again, Sarah Al-Amiri, she is the Hope probe head. I'll go faster. Humanitarian aid, of course, UAE is actually per capita probably the highest in the world, even more than the Scandinavian countries. So it's very interesting. We've been helping, throughout. I always say from the most eastern part of the world to the farthest west, you see United Arab Emirates there. We even have actually international humanitarian city based in Dubai, where it makes it easier for UN, like World Food Program and all, to provide aid around the world, because our logistics is so good, and that becomes, again, part of the networking that we say, cultural diplomacy, being part of the global community. This is the UAE. And you can see the numbers here. There's been millions and millions that UAE has contributed to the world, and we still continue. With Corona, again, UAE was, in a way, a star, I would say. Right now, in terms of vaccination, we are number one in the world. We are ahead of Israel and ahead of the other countries when you read in the news. But also, we've been looking into our responsibility towards the world. So Emirates Airlines, because passengers' flights stopped, was using its flights for cargo and sending cargo to over 100 countries around the world, helping them, even with equipment and all for medical equipment during the pandemic time. So, this is just to continue on that, we've done a lot of medical flights. Actually, mobile hospitals, we've set up in Sudan, Guinea-Conakry, Mauritania, and Jordan. These are just some examples that we have built there during the pandemic time. Sustainability, of course, UAE. Yeah, and here's also a question that people say, you have a lot of oil, you don't need to have any other sources of energy. But we always say that, and this is again from our, our founder, that we said that we want to celebrate the day that we are going to produce the last barrel of oil, not to cry. So for that, we need to build other alternatives. And we are using the resources that we are getting to build into other energy sources and being a responsible country, if you will, to the world. This is just an example. In Dubai, we are building one of the biggest solar energy parks which will support millions by 2030, million homes. Okay, so what is there for the future? Yeah, well, this is actually the Museum of the Future, the example. It's already finished just about 2 weeks ago, a beautiful piece of architecture. What I would like to say is that UAE, again, feels that it is important to share its experience, but to share also the successes that it has with the others, but also the failures, if possible, to be a positive member and try to take maybe some courageous moves, because our region needs someone to take a courageous step. And UAE is trying to do that. Now, we can talk politics if you want after this, but it is our region. I think I always say you are never bored in Middle East. There's always something happening somewhere, so it's always exciting. So it keeps you busy. So, and this is it. This is the values. I mean, I don't know if you saw the ambition. Having an ambition and working on it, but also being tolerant, being accepting to the others. And of course, having a vision. Coming from Citibank, we always used to have this, looking at vision and mission and what we want to do into the future for our company. Countries can do the same thing. And this is what we are, this was the message. The world is not enough, so going to the Mars, which is actually makes a lot of sense as we read more about the space industry. And so 50 years and fabulous. Thank you very much. Okay. What do you want to
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. If you wouldn't mind staying on the stage, I'm sure we have questions and comments. I think the interactivity
do we have?
is always one of the highlights. So I would say, as always, if you briefly raise your hand, and then once I call on you, briefly introduce yourself so we know where you're coming from. I think that's interesting for us all. Also for some of us to get to know each other, since we've only met each other virtually in some cases. So please, ladies first.
Hi.
Is it okay if I take my mask off? Sure.
No, it's okay, definitely. I'm okay with that.
My name is Urja. I come from India.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to know that you speak a little bit of Hindi. So
थोड़ा बात करते हैं, बस बहुत अच्छे नहीं.
but thank you so much. So, I'm a student of economics, and just like you. But however, I didn't go to London School of Economics. But one of the most important things about India is that it's so heterogeneous, and I feel like if contradictions had to ever reconcile, they reconcile in India, because we are so different. Even within the same languages, we speak like 10 dialects, and then people differentiate with each other. And like you said, one of the important factors for UAE is the fact that you are very accepting, and you are united, and you welcome new people, newer cultures. And you said 85% of your population is actually people from other parts of the world.
True.
But what I'm just really curious about is, when newer people start coming in, like local identities tend to feel endangered. They feel like, okay, we might not be able to sustain this culture or this tradition because newer people are coming in and they're bringing their language and everything. So, do you think globally we'll lose languages, or that we'll lose cultures and traditions because it's becoming so fluid?
You think, so what you're saying, are you saying that English probably is taking over maybe when we do internet and all this? Yeah, it depends. I think really UAE probably is an example of having your identity, but not insisting on it in a way to say, this is the only way it should be. And I can give you an example. I mean, maybe we talk about some sensitive areas also. For instance, in my country, whether you want to be covered or not covered as a Muslim or as a person, whoever, It's not an issue. It's never an issue. For instance, in my family, I have a lot of people who are covered from my sisters, but it's, if you insist on it, like other countries probably, when they do that, just to say because we want to keep our identity, the world is become a global village now. I mean, you know this, because on social media, there is no more the world that we talked about before. It doesn't take you long to get from Germany to Guinea or any other country or South America or something, So you cannot, this is how time is going on. So you need to know how to live with it. So you can have it within your own family, your own community if you want and all, but you cannot avoid others from coming in. Either you say, then I'll close down, nobody comes into my country, and I'll be isolated, and you wither away, or no, I accept the others, but I will also celebrate my identity. And this is exactly what happens in my country. As you saw some of the pictures, you saw, the local traditional dress that the men wear, for instance. Abdullah, my colleague, here he's not wearing it, but in UAE he will wear it, for instance, right? So, because we celebrate that, there's nothing. So I think even for India, for instance, and other countries, India is so rich in culture and all. How can you even stop India from having all this cultural richness? It will not finish. So it's a war that you will never win, because science will not allow you to win that. I mean, technology, the way world is going. So you cannot just be in your own place anymore. So you have to accept the differences. But you have to also be proud of your past. I mean, and this is what we do all the time. We are very proud of our origin, our place, but so does everybody, everyone else also. So we realize that. The same way that I am proud of my origin, someone from Suriname, let's say, who comes to UAE, is very proud of his country, So, and that is why the expo is going to be amazing, because this is the first time you have countries like Suriname. I know Suriname. A lot of people in the world, when you say Suriname, they don't know where it is, for instance, right? Because I was in Brazil, I was non-resident to Suriname. So I had to go to Suriname, for instance, Very interesting cultural country, actually. A lot of different cultures there. They get a chance now to showcase Suriname to the world in Dubai, And that is, we always say we have to celebrate the diversity of people. Diversity in religion, in race, in background, in colors, And so I don't think we will lose it out. But there will be challenges. You need to work on it. I understand. And we did go through this period, because when we started having schools and all, we had very strong Arabic, but right now I see more private schools are going towards English. So Arabic is not being taught as much as it used to be in some of the private schools and all. It becomes a challenge. So the government's role is always to balance this. And you cannot do it by just forcing, stopping something. You have to just incentivize. I mean, you've done economics, so, it's all about incentives. So if I don't have an incentive to do something, I will not do it, So you need to incentivize people to do the right things by putting those values. And that is, I think that is one of the secrets of UAE, giving incentives for people to celebrate. So for instance, Holi, the festival of Holi, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, all the different states, when it is the time, you see people celebrating that on the streets with all the colors and the paint, and they enjoy it. They love it, because maybe it's something I don't do, but, we have a big community people, and people get to know about the other culture. So instead of looking at the subject saying, I will lose, say maybe I will gain more by showing what I have. So I don't know if this answered that.
Yes, it's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Michael,
Thank
and I'm from Ghana. And I want to say thank you for that beautiful presentation.
Pleasure.
Yes, importantly for myself, coming from a country that is known for its strong democracy and rich culture,
True.
there's still more to be desired,
Mhm.
especially in the field of the natural resources and the resources that the nation has.
Yes.
I guess my question is, on the sub-region, on the African sub-region, countries like Ghana, Nigeria are blessed with oil exploration as far back as 1896, 2007, etc. But
Mm-hmm.
was trying to find a negative bit in there, more or less, like corruption,
Yeah.
where you move from economic misappropriation of funds,
Sure.
resources. These are things that are, hampered the development of my region and where we come from, because we have all the resources, gold, etc., diamond, bauxite,
True.
etc. But for it to be used, there's still issues of corruption and all these in there. So I guess I want to understand, what did the UAE do different? Because I was finding it hard finding any of those elements in your presentation, and how do countries in my region
Yeah.
learn from the model
Sure.
and how to move past that towards the future? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thanks for this question. It is an important point. And if you look at global index on corruption, you see UAE, one of the top countries with least corruption. But as you rightly said, because if there is so much oil and resources, a very small population, it's a good area for corruption to increase, for people to misappropriate funds and all. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It happens in UAE, it happens everywhere else, and we see that coming out all over the world, right? But what we have is that we have put institutions, and that is very important. And this is something that, when we look at developmental economics, is missing in our part of the world. You don't have this continuity of institutions, and I think this is what is done so well for the West, for Europe and all. You have rules and laws, and you have independent institutions that are there, that are functioning well, and that make sure that things are going right. So putting that in place it's very difficult to do it, but once you have it, it makes your life easy, But you need to have the willingness to get to that. And I think, again, in our part of the world, leadership becomes important. Another example is maybe Singapore. Singapore also started in 50s or something like that, right? And they had Lee Kuan Yew as their leader. Again, very strong leader, but it was important. But he was also very selfless. So he built Singapore into the powerhouse that it is today. It was a very poor place also. Actually, Singapore doesn't even have resources, if you think about it. So only the people are the resources. It's their brain, it's their, Switzerland maybe is another good example also to put into these kind of areas. So UAE really believed in that. And that's why our founder Sheikh Zayed, worked on the education, providing, and it became a national drive. I can give you an example. It was eradicating illiteracy was so important in my country when I was young. I was a child when I was going to school, grade 1 or 2. I remember we used to go in the morning with the bus, used to come and take us, and they used to even give us sandwiches, so to have food, something to eat in the school. So we like to go to school, as children. In the afternoon, my aunt, who was 50 or something, a lot older than I am, who was illiterate, she and the women of the community used to go in the same bus to the same school. And in the evening, we used to sit together and do our homework. So it was, I was like, 10, 12, whatever years, and then with someone who was 50 years. So eradicating illiteracy became so important that everybody was going for it. So that made us aware of the situation, and then why do you get corruption, I guess, so many reasons, of course, but one is that you don't see opportunities. There are no opportunities other than going through a route of corruption, maybe, or, bribery and all these other things that people say in our part of the world. But when you are educated, when you are well educated, and you have a system that has already, appreciates that, gives you the opportunity, there's no reason to be corrupted, or to take that in place. So getting the administration of a country, the governance right, becomes very important. And looking at the government to be there to serve the people. And this, you don't hear much in our part of the world. In our part of the world, if you are the president, you think that everybody else should serve you as a president. In UAE, it's the other way. Our prime minister, the ruler of Dubai, he says, our job is to serve our customers. Who are our customers? Are all the people who are living in Dubai, UAE nationals or others, to provide services to them. And that is the key. So the attitude towards this. And also having, of course, a strong rule of law and, of course, in place, that becomes helpful. We do a lot of these sessions with many countries in our region where we talk about what we do, and people come from different countries to see how we do our governance, and our system is there. That can be an interesting area to have discussions. Hopefully, Expo will give us a chance to do that, maybe. Okay.
Maybe final question? Sure.
Thank you very much, Maran. My name is Omar. I come from Saudi Arabia.
Ahlan.
Your experience is a unique one, that you have been through the transition of the years in the UAE.
Mm-hmm.
So you've experienced all stages.
Yeah.
On light on Sheikh Zayed's role,
Mm-hmm.
transition, can you tell us why UAE is successful in being so much open, yet preserving the values of the country?
Sure. Yeah, again, really, I think, Sheikh Zayed, late Sheikh Zayed, he was really very wise. And actually, when he was young, he was, I can tell you a story, he was ruling Al Ain. Al Ain is a city in Abu Dhabi. It's a smaller town, oasis town, actually. And he was ruling that place. And we had very strong child mortality because the healthcare was terrible. That is in 50s, actually, 40s and 50s. There were mercenaries that came from Canada. It was a family, a doctor and his wife, and they were treating the children. But a lot of people in the city, because it was a small tribal area, said, we are not going to take our children to the mercenary because, he's not Muslim, I don't know what, maybe I don't know what they're doing, and stuff. So, but Sheikh Zayed, what he said, no, if this is going to save my children, I don't care if he is Christian or not Christian. That is not what is the goal? The goal is to preserve life and to build a better, so that is the wisdom that comes in. And that is a time where he was not even, his young years. As I said, his education was very limited. So what allowed us to work is to accept, the other, to be open to the other as much as possible, if it is for the community good. And that becomes more important. So you do things, even if I personally might not agree with his belief, let's say, but if this is going to help us as a community, so that is the start. And then you put this in everything you do. So when you work, so I worked in Citibank, right? We were talking. We had so many colleagues from all over the world working there. I couldn't say, I'm special because I'm a UAE citizen, I can do whatever I want, I don't go to work or I get No, I was getting the same evaluation, criteria like everybody else. And the government never come and said, no, because she's a UAE national, Citibank, you have to promote her, or you don't. No, never interferes. Very important to have this. So you need to know your limits. You need to know what is the purpose of you being there. The bigger picture. And that is always, I think, it's been a key for us in UAE. We always look at that. Even right now, when we talk about de-escalation in our region, not to have more tension, we are really going to work for that now. This will be the message for the future. Opening up to the world, to the region, even if they think otherwise, even if they were not fair to us. Because you can find anything in history if you go back. The Americans can always say, the original people in America can always say the Europeans who came 200 years ago, they were not fair to them of what happened. It will never finish otherwise, if you continue going into that kind of cycle. The key is to say, yes, injustice has happened, but let us find out going forward, what about our future? Why do we always look backward? Let's look forward, And that mindset change is the problem in our part. We are always looking back. We're never looking at the next, what about our children, our children's children? And this is, I think, what UAE has maybe put as a point. It's okay.
Well, Your Excellency, and there are many more questions. I suggest why don't we conclude the formal parts now,
Okay.
and then maybe in the reception afterwards we'll have a chance also one-on-one to come
Sure.
to you, and I'm sure we can continue the dialogue in many ways. But first of all, let's express our sincere gratitude to the Ambassador for an excellent presentation.